Hey everybody, it's Brickwaffle again, and today we are starting out in our machine shop. Actually, this is our computer lab, and machine shop's next door. But either way, we've got a few new things to show you, so let me just quickly come over here this way. We've got our automatic inscription presses set up. I think these are just called inscribers in AE2. And this will help us make circuits automatically. We've got a little bit of computer stuff set up here from Computer Craft. I'm starting to look into that. I know that some of the turtles you can do in that mod are pretty exciting. There's a lot of really interesting things you can do. And then if we go outside here, you can see that we have a new building just back here. Also, we've redone the roof. Hopefully you guys like that as well. I used some Enderium blocks and some diamond panels. I think that looks a lot nicer than the old one. But we do have a new building over here I've just started playing with. We've got some of the laboratory blocks here from Chisel in different configurations, and an automatic door, which is just an airlock from Galacticraft. And then in here we have this very kind of sterile looking lab setting, and then some alchemical equipment, which I know seems like a kind of an odd thing to do, but eventually with this chemical equipment, when EE3 is complete, we'll be able to do things like changing substances even at the atomic level, which is pretty cool. Unfortunately right now, the minium stone, which is the key component to this mod, doesn't do anything. It's a work in progress. So all we can do is make them, and yeah, that's all we're going to do for now. But eventually, when that mod is finished, we will come back to that. Unfortunately, because Modsauce is still in beta, we are discovering a few bugs on our server. The BC builder doesn't work. Unfortunately, you can create blueprints, but then when you try to put them back in the builder, nothing happens. It just shows you that no materials are needed. And really, unfortunately, Ars Magica 2 has a bug where you can't make spells if you're using this on a Linux server like we are, and people have Windows clients. So unfortunately, that bug is when you put your spellbook on here and you throw your blank rune in, it ignores all the recipes, asks for a spell parchment next, and gives you a useless blank spell that doesn't do anything. Which means that we really can't use Ars Magica right now either, and we have spent quite a bit of materials getting this all put together. So that's a shame, but I know it's a work in progress. A lot of these things are going to get fixed over time, and at some point there will be a stable final Modsauce pack that is worth maybe considering a server restart. But for the time being, we're just going to work with what we have. I'm pretty happy with it so far. And today what we're going to do, I'm actually going to show you a little bit about how I've put some of these things together. So we're going to go back over to the computer shop. Let's just fly over there. No sense in walking. Let's go in this way. And this computer shop, let me just bring this back. Each of these presses is configured with one of these silicon press or whatever else that's in here in the top slot. And these interfaces here, these ME interfaces. You can connect them directly to the inscribers, but that ends up taking quite a few channels unless you use peer-to-peer or interfaces to interfaces and some topics that are a little bit more complicated than this. But the nice thing about AE is you can put an interface into a chest and tell it, I want you to put items into this chest and get these items back out. It doesn't really care what happens. You can use this chest and some item pipes to pipe these in however you want, which is what we've done here. And let me just go ahead and break this open real quick. So you can see that under this, maybe I can break this one. Under this, you can see that there's an ME import bus. And that import bus is filtered to only bring over finished printed circuits. And it's got a capacity card so we can have more than one filter on it. And this interface is where we tell it these patterns make the different circuits. So from the interface's point of view, it puts all the materials into this chest, and then it knows that at some point it's going to get these things back on the network. It doesn't really care where they go from the chest. It doesn't care that some of the materials go up here and then get collected back and then piped in. The interface just knows, I put one silicon in, I expect to get one printed silicon back. Now how do you tell it to make those things? Because that's not a normal crafting table recipe. Well, over here in a pattern terminal, there's two modes on this. There's the crafting pattern, which is the default. And this is where you can tell it, I want to use, let's see, pine wood planks. I want to put 2 of these in here and make some sticks. That's a valid pattern. You just click encode pattern, it'll work. But if you want to encode something that requires a furnace or an inscriber or any other device, you can just change it to a processing pattern. And here, you have to tell it what the input and the output is, which means you have to have made one once. So in this case, you'd have to take the pine wood and then tell it that it's going to make sticks. And I don't have any sticks here right now. And then you encode it. And instead of saying, okay, well I can craft that with the crafting interfaces I have over here, it says, great. I'll just store that, and you can put that in an interface. And then, like I said, we tell it, you get 1 gold ingot, and expect 1 printed logic circuit back. So the nice thing about that is, with these sort of things, you can take this extract pipe and say I can take silicon, gold, diamond, or pure Certus quartz crystals with a whitelist on the basic item filter, And then these inserts each have one thing that they can take. So Certus quartz can only go in there, diamonds can only go in there, gold can only go in here, and silicon can only go in here. And when they're done, all of these things will export back out, and can't really see that from here, into this same chest. There's some, it says skystone brick, but that's conduit facade. So it'll take all of these things out, put them back in here, and then they go back on the network. Separately, we have another interface just behind this chest, which says, take those printed silicons, printed logic circuits, and a redstone, and give me these patterns back out, these processors. And it's exactly the same thing. So that interface puts items into this chest. There's some item piping that comes around to the side for redstone, on the top for one of these three things, and on the bottom, which you can't really see here, is the silicon. And then it extracts any completed product out of the side. And again, there's an import bus on the bottom that only accepts the completed circuits. So that what we do with this is, let's go ahead and put this back in place. Now I can come over to here, to any of the terminals, and I say, oh, well, I need a 64K storage component. And normally to make this, you have to make 3 of the 16s, which each require 3 of the 4s, which each require 3 of the 1s, and there's also some vibrant quartz and also some redstone. But if I click this and I say next, it's going to show me every step of that process that it needs. Now you can see that I'm missing a little bit of redstone and silicon, and I'm going to go ahead and get that real quick from our shared network. Redstone, let's just grab a stack of that, and silicon, grab a stack of that as well. And if we put that back in here, and we tell it we want to make a 64K storage component, you can see we have all of the materials. It's going to pick one of the crafting CPUs automatically, and if I hit start, you'll see that it starts working. Now over here you can see that because it is a crafting recipe that AE recognizes, it shows up on the crafting monitor. You can see that what it's doing, it's crafting each of these things. You might be able to see stored 1, crafting 26, crafting 1, scheduled 8. So you can see that it's making these components, putting them back in the network, and then making the next thing in the list. And it's keeping some things like the glowstone and the quartz class that you need just for the end components. It's just keeping those in reserve. And when it's all done, it's just going to drop that back on the network. Now for anybody who's used AE a lot and has seen how long it takes to stamp all these things, especially if you're doing them one at a time, this is a huge time saver. And if you're trying to make a bunch of drives, like you want to do a bunch of 64K storage for your network, and you have all the raw materials, you can just set this up, walk away, and eventually you'll have those components. Now you can also combine this with regular crafting, which you can see in here, because these things don't have to be made in a press, these storage units. They just combine a few of these processors with some of this other material in a regular crafting table. And so that's one of our regular recipes. Let me go to the interface terminal here. You can see that we do have these regular recipes so that it knows a 64K storage component is 3 16s, a 4 glowstone dust, a quartz glass, and an engineering processor, and so on and so forth. And AE is smart enough that when I ask for the end product of all of these different recipes, it combines everything it needs to get to that point and makes as many of it as it needs to complete the request you made. Now obviously you can only queue up a certain number of these based on how many crafting CPUs you have and how much crafting storage you have. There's a limit to that. But there's nothing really stopping me from coming up here and queuing 1,000 of these as long as I had the CPUs to do it. Now obviously I don't because of how much I would have to store of each of these things. I just don't have the storage for 39,000 silicon or 107,000 Certus quartz with this little array. But if you had a bigger facility, you absolutely could do that. So this is a nice thing about this process is it can scale up over time. You can use this to start automating to make more storage capacity so that you can make faster and bigger automation and so on and so forth. It's pretty exciting and I'm very happy with it. And as you can't really see from here, I only have a few drives, but our shared network over in Sonata Block's base has quite a few drives, and he's actually started up a new server room. And I talked to him earlier in the week. We are going to go ahead and take a look at his base now and show off a couple of things that he's created. He's really gotten into the AE stuff, and he is not doing any YouTube videos right now. Maybe someday he'll do that, but he has been very helpful for the server, and thank you Sonata Block for doing all of that for us. So let's come take a look down at his base. We'll go down to the basement here. And this is the crafting and storage room. So you can see he's got a similar configuration to mine. He's actually still making some of these as well. However, his crafting storage is a little bit larger. He's got chandeliers of the molecular assemblers, which is a design we came up with when we were first playing around with this. I think it looks pretty good. And this is our storage array. So you can see that he's got one drive in every single drive rack, just because, or I'm sorry, one storage unit. That's what they're called, storage cells. He's got one of those in every drive just so he can make sure that they're all online. And you can see we've got some room to grow into some of these, but we are actually filling up quite a few of our drives. And not all of these are 64s. Some of these are 16s. But that's still quite a bit of information, quite a bit of items all stored on this network. And here we're starting we have some MT16s here, we have a few MT64s that we've been crafting, and we've definitely got room to grow. So we will be able to store anything we want for the foreseeable future. And I'm also going to show off a couple of his reactor designs, and I will admit right up front, I don't know hardly anything about reactors. That's been really his forte. He's been providing power for the rest of the server on Tesseracts on the Tesla channel, which I thought was a nice touch. But this is one thing that we've noticed. If you're not using, I believe it's Ludicrite cores at the end, your fans don't appear to spin. That's a current bug with the mod. This is inactive at the moment, but if I turn this on, I think it's this one, and engage coils, so this should be generating power. Maybe I don't know what I'm doing, but there is a way to turn this on. The coils won't spin. I'm going to configure this back off so that I leave it the way I found it. This is a passive reactor. This is what we started with, and this one is also offline at the moment because we've got this new reactor that he started up. So you can see there's Ludicrite core back there. These fans spin, and really this is more, I think, realistic. It's using a nuclear reactor to produce steam to spin a turbine, and here you can see that we're generating, well, you can't really see that with any eye there, quite a bit of RF, and not for very much fuel. So this is pretty exciting. You can see that there's rotor speed here. We're right in the sweet spot. We're real close to it anyway. And it's producing more power than we really need. And he does have some other reactors. You can see there's another one down there that's not on at the moment. He can switch up different turbines. He's got all these different tesseracts for different fluids and energies. And if we come down here, you can see that this reactor will be able to go online as well if we need additional power. And it's another Ludicrite one. Maybe if I turn this one on briefly. Yeah. So you can see that one starts to spin up. This is really cool stuff. I like these multi-block structures, and especially if you're doing something like mining lasers or the force fields that require a lot of power, that is absolutely the way to go. There's also this design, which is he calls it a pancake reactor. It's a passive reactor, and you can see that it's generating just a little bit of heat and fuel status right now. It's barely running. It doesn't look like it has any energy buffer whatsoever. It's still generating steam and dumping that into these turbines. So this is a pretty effective design, I guess, and he could explain more about it. The important thing to note is that all of this stuff is producing so much power that the rest of us barely need to produce any to run all of our machines. So that's very cool, and thank you Sonata Block for doing that for us. So the other place we wanted to go today, and I know I'm doing a bit of a server tour, but I just wanted to show off some of the things from folks who aren't doing YouTube videos. Go to Torquata's base, and you can see he's moved his portal into a castle, which is pretty exciting. If you watched my regular vanilla, or I guess bucket, not really vanilla series, you saw that Torquata was building a castle on that server, and he has really taken it up a notch over here. I know some of this is getting cut off from the clouds and the rain, but this is looking really, really good. There's a lot of glass windows here. I really like this tower on one end. You can see that this is where he's doing some enchanting, it looks like, in here. He's got some bookshelves and some mana pylons, some brewing down there, it looks like, and I do like the little floating candles up here. I think that's a nice touch. This side is Botania, and it looks like he's got a portal to Alfheim he's almost set up. He's storing some mana so he can activate that at some point here in the near future. But he's decided he's going to look into all of the magic stuff, and I'm really looking forward to that, because there's a lot you can do with Botania and blood magic and witchery. Even though Ars Magica isn't working yet, there's still plenty of magic in the mods, and he has a lot to do with that still. Not sure what he has planned for this tower, but you can just see the scale of what he's doing is pretty tremendous, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how all of this works. There is a little bit of power here at the back that's going in and feeding some of his stuff. And then this is a new thing. I haven't even seen this before. You guys are seeing this for the first time, as I am. That's really cool. I like that Viking style. So this kind of longhouse, let's see, we got some signs here. Hall of Witchery, Caution, Witchcraft in Progress. Let's take a quick peek. Isn't that exciting? I really like that building. That's very cool. I haven't played a whole lot with the Witchery mod. We've started to get into that. Filtered fume funnels and a witch's oven. I have no idea what this stuff does. That's really exciting. But I'm looking forward to that. I guess Torquata has been working towards making us some necromantic robes so that skeletons and zombies will ignore us, and it makes some of those cemeteries, if you guys have also been playing Modsauce, you know what I'm talking about. There are cemeteries out in this world where as soon as you set foot in the doorway, it becomes nighttime and literally hundreds of skeletons and zombies start pouring out of everywhere. And it makes it very difficult, even if you have very good equipment, to get anything done. So he's going to make us some robes so that we can go in there and be ignored by the skeletons and zombies and really cut down on all the stuff that we have to do. All the things we have to fight. So we did give him one ME chest to get him started on how this all this works. Doesn't look... Okay, there's a terminal on top of it, but there's no power anymore for this. We just wanted to get Torquata set up with a little bit of AE2 and I guess he's got some other magic storage going on. There's one other person that I have not talked about on our video series yet, and now I have to find my way back to that portal, which I want to say was over here. Was it in this tower? Maybe. Oh, there it is. Let's go in this way. Glenn is one of our other players. He's joined our server, I guess, relatively recently. He's probably the most recent person to join. But he's played modded Minecraft before, and as you can see, he's got a little portal room as well. Some of what he's got going on is pretty exciting. He's also getting into computer craft and some biblio, as you can see here. I think that's pretty cool. But his base is a work in progress, but he's got a lot of interesting things planned. You can see he's got a digital miner down there to get some resources. He's got a capacitor block up here and a small ME network of his own. He also has a reactor down here and some turbines. So his network setup is going to be completely isolated, it looks like, and help be able to be completely self-sufficient, which is kind of neat. Also, carpenter's garage doors, which I didn't even know existed until I came over here. You craft these and they come up as a single door entity, which is pretty cool. And then in here, he's been using computer craft to add one of the password protected locks. So I have no idea what the password is. It's probably not Brickwaffle. Let's try that. Nope, access denied, and I can't open this door. So that's kind of a neat idea. I think that's a pretty cool touch. Glenn appears to be doing a lot of the technical stuff as well, and I think that's exciting for a lot of the folks on the server. I really like all of this stuff, but I admit I've been more into the technical stuff than the magic stuff. When Ars Magica 2 is finally fixed and working correctly, I do intend to get into some of that as well. But he's got a similar machine shop. You can see some of the machines that we've seen. A few things here and there. Thermionic fabricator, I don't even know what that is. I haven't even seen some of these devices. Cyanite reprocessor from big reactors that can reuse as waste material. That's good. Like I said, this is a work in progress, but so far it's looking pretty good. And I really like from the outside the way that his base looks from the village that he built next to. So let's come through here. And yeah, you can see he's just carving into the mountain there, and it's gonna, over time, that's gonna expand. We've got some basic portcullis here, and this part is also pretty exciting, using the drawbridges from Tinker's Mechworks. Not really sure why that one is so slow compared to the others, but Tinker's Mechworks is really cool with the drawbridges. They can be a little bit laggy, and the server might have a little bit of trouble keeping up with the door that size. But it is pretty cool that it works at all, so I'm pretty excited by that. And I think the idea here is that, well, yep, there goes that one nice and slow. You can have really, really big doors without needing all the complicated piston redstone. So you can see he's generating a little bit of wind power. I believe that's powering this farm over here, an auto farm for wheat. And right across this bridge is the little village that he's trying to protect, so he's put in some walls here to keep things out, and he's lit it up pretty well so nothing spawns in it. And I guess both he and Torquata are basically building castles with attached villages, which is a neat idea. I really like that. Alright, so we are back in Bricktown. And you know what? I don't think this mariculture building was here in the last video either. So I have been playing with a few things. I've been putting in some pearls, or some oysters rather, to farm pearls to make some of the jewelry from mariculture. Some of that is really exciting. Some of that can be very dangerous. And Botania also has some jewelry. I believe that currently I do have a Tinker's construct belt, which allows me to swap my hotbar I never really use, and some heart canisters to give me a little bit of that extra health increase. But, that's another bug in the mods. If I look at my baubles, I do have the angel ring still, which has my wings, and the ring of Cordata. So the ring of Cordata is actually from Botania, it's not from mariculture. And what that allows me to do is see better underwater and move faster underwater. Let's see, this is probably deep enough for me to show that. So when I'm on the bottom of the water, you can see that here where my head's kind of at the surface, it doesn't really do much. When I get down where I'm actually completely submerged, it's supposed to let me move faster. Sometimes it doesn't really work very well, so I'm going to take that off. And you can see right away that that's pretty dark. If I put this back on, oops, well, if I throw it away, that doesn't help. Put this back on, you can see that it lights up again. And here, well, it sort of worked for a moment. I think it might be confused with flying as well, but it makes me move quite a bit faster in a straight line when I'm running underwater, yeah. You do have momentum, it's sort of like running on ice, but it's kind of interesting. Really the nicest thing is that it makes me able to see underwater very easily without having to use night vision, so that's kind of helpful. There are other things you can make in Botania. I believe I have a necklace here, yep I do, and another ring. So this necklace in Botania, when you put on the snowflake pendant, and it just requires some winter runes, this is pretty neat. Let me turn this off and show you exactly what happens here. As you're walking across water, it freezes, and then unfreezes behind you after a few minutes. This is really awesome, unless you're over near a farm, and you freeze your only source of hydration for the crops. in which case your farm will basically shut down. Or if, say, you were trying to farm oysters for pearls like we were over here, and you walk in and all of your oysters pop up off the ground and drop whatever they were doing. So that ring is interesting, it's kind of neat, I really like the look of it, but I can't really wear it very often. And then the Ring of Far Reach, you can put this in here instead, and this allows you to, let's see if I can demonstrate this. It does exactly what it says on the tin. So right here you see I can't reach that tree, it's too far away. If I put this ring on, you can see I can reach that tree from up to, I believe it's 8 or 9 blocks away. So that's really, really cool. It can also be pretty dangerous with one of these imbued picks. So, and hey, I think I got that right, I said imbued. Although it's an imbued tool, not an imbued pick. But you can see that, oh, there's a pick with a saddle. Interesting. Instead of reaching 5 blocks, I can go straight back 9 blocks. That can be really dangerous if you're just trying to break one here. Actually, of course, I got it that time. But it makes it makes it really easy to overshoot what you're going for. Let's grab that malachite real quick. So that's another one that's nice to have, but it's situationally useful. I'm going to keep that off most of the time and just keep the angel ring on because I like the look of those wings. You know, and I don't think we have the achievement for a flying pig. He's only got 2 hit points right now. We might have to come back and get that in a minute. Let's go ahead and, whoops, not that one. Put these things back. And we'll switch rings here in a moment. But like I said, there's some interesting things in Botania. In Mariculture, though, you can't put them on any of these slots. You have to have a magic mirror, which, let's see if I have that still here somewhere. Some of you are probably looking at it right now. It's in this bag. I don't see it. It might be on the network. Speaking of that, let's go ahead and throw those things on there. And let's go check our private network. Actually, let's check our orange pouch here, just in case. Nope, you can see I've been playing with the force field stuff. That's a little bit buggy, and someone has come by and put Necromancer's robes, and it looks like Torquata's giving me those. That's pretty exciting. So those are ready. We'll have to schedule that at some point. The other thing that we might consider doing on this server is wiping our end dimension, since we now have the hardcore end expansion. There's a lot of stuff going on with that. It makes the end a lot harder, but it does need to be completely regenerated because there are now end biomes, which is cool and a little terrifying. That makes the end going from when you have decent equipment from a joke into something that's actually pretty scary. Do I have my magic mirror? Don't seem to have one there. And I don't seem to have one there. I'm not sure where that ended up. But anyway, once you have the magic mirror, you can use that to see your special slots, and you can see that here, for your jewelry from Mariculture. In fact, how hard would it be to just craft another one? I think a regular mirror from Mariculture is pretty easy. Let's do that. I think that will work to allow me to put on the jewelry. Yeah, so you can see here we've got a pink pearl with a gold ingot and has 1-up. It's supposed to have leech life. I'm not really sure that all this stuff is actually functioning. This one we got blink and leapfrog and fall resistance and Midas touch, so monsters are supposed to have a chance of dropping gold nuggets. That doesn't seem to ever work. And we don't need the fall resistance or the leapfrog when we can fly. This one has magical cloak, which is supposed to reduce magic damage. Also blink 3 and 1-up 1. I believe the 1-up is that when you die, it's supposed to restore you to a little bit of health based on the level of your 1-up. So I believe that if I were to actually die, instead of dying, these would take durability and I would go to 2 hearts. I'm not sure 100% what you're supposed to do to use blink. I'm sure there's something I'm missing that's really easy. Maybe there's just a control that I need to turn on. Like I said, I've been playing with the pearls from Mariculture. I made a bunch of them. They don't seem to make a big difference in the way that things work for me on a regular basis, but we'll see what happens in the future. I don't see anything really for... Maybe I passed it over, but I didn't see anything for Mariculture. Oh, Mariculture toggle button. That's the equivalent exchange. So if you guys do know how some of these things are supposed to work, please do let me know in the comments. There is so much stuff I don't know about these mods. It's still really exciting for me. If you also have anything that you'd like me to build or some projects you'd like me to take on, I do have a few ideas, but nothing I'm ready to do a video on yet. Sakala has asked me to look into using turtles from Computercraft to automate her farm. I know that's possible. I have a fairly good idea of how to do it. I'm not intimidated in the slightest by writing the code, but I do need to understand more about the syntax. I've never written anything in Lua before, which I believe is the language that works with the computer, or with the turtles and the computers. So that would require me to learn a little bit about that. And it would be a fairly complicated setup, just because we have to kind of go up and down rows and then go back and refuel and drop off crops. And we have to make sure we have code to grab all of the different crops, plant the various different seeds in the right places, because her farm is organized with every kind of crop she can find from Pam's Harvest Craft in very neat, orderly rows, one per crop. Actually, it's 2 crops per row, so that makes this very, very complicated to write up. I will probably, at some point, do a video on how to do a very basic farm with a turtle, but honestly, really the only thing that gets you is automated farming with coal rather than with using the electricity, because you can use, as you saw at Glenn's base, you can use the multi-structure farm blocks from forestry, or as you've seen over here and at my old rubber farm in the past, we can use these Ender IO farms that just require a little bit of piping, and you can even see that it's harvesting these things as we speak. So as these things mature and they grow, they're automatically harvested. These things, like cotton, are left alone because you don't have to do anything, and the potatoes are replanted when they're harvested. So if I break one now, you'll see that instantly it's replanted by the device. So that's kind of neat. Break another one, and it should plant another potato in there in a few seconds when it comes back around. There you go. So these things for me are much easier to maintain, but they don't work with any of the Pam's Harvest Craft crops. So you have to rely on the IOs and the APIs to be compatible. They have to be in the dictionaries together. Here, with the turtles, it doesn't care what mod it's from. It just tries to break the block in front of it and tries to put down whatever other item you tell it to do. So it doesn't really need to be compatible with other mods. If it exists and you can interact with it, the turtles can pretty much work with it. Okay, that's all we've got time for today, so if you enjoyed this video, please do give it a like. If you really liked it, then please subscribe, and as always, I've been Brickwaffle. Thank you for watching.